How you doing, folks? I'm going to take time today to talk about arrows. After you've done purchased your bow, whatever you decide you go with, whether it's a long bow or recurve, your next choice will be an arrow choice. And spine will be the most important out of that arrow choice, no matter what arrows you choose. I don't care whether it's a gold tip, Easton, these traditional onlys that are made by Easton for Three Rivers Archery. Spine is going to be your most important thing out of all the whole arrow setup. If you don't have the right spine, if you got too stiff of the spine, what's going to happen, that if it's way too stiff, it is going to kick hard right and probably fly like this once it gets so far to your target and hit and bounce off. I've seen that happen trying to figure out spine for a bow, and I have like tried different spines till I find something that flies halfway decent. At full length, depending on your draw length, you know, it may not fly quite right, but you can get it fairly close by playing around with tip weight. But for starting out, you know, getting the correct total spine for whatever bow poundage that you're shooting. If you're starting out, normally I wouldn't try to go too heavy of a bow. It don't matter whether you come from compound, you pull back a 70-80 pound compound, but that's with some lead off. You're only pulling 70 or 80 pounds for a short amount of time. Then you're hitting a valley, and which drops way down. It gets real smooth, and you come back to your back wall. You know, I know with 70 pounds at 80% let off, you're only holding 14 pounds. With these traditional bows, you are going to be holding whatever you pull back to your draw length. Let's say if you're 28 and the bow is at 55, you get back to 28 inches, and it's rated for 55 at 28, you're holding 55 pounds. Don't sound like a lot until you start yanking on it. I started out with a 45 pound bow. I came from compound. When I was starting to shoot traditional, and 45 pounds was quite a bit with no let off. It took me a little bit to get, you know, be able to get back to full anchor and all that. So, I mean, you know, I'm pretty strong for my size. I can yank back a 70 pound compound and not sky draw it or let it down. I can be on my target when I draw back on my target. I don't have to move a whole lot to get my pin set when I shot compound. So if that tell you anything, you know, and that's with let off. So when you go to no let off, then 45 or 50 pounds, it don't sound like a lot, but it is when you got it on your fingers and trying to hold it steady. So with that, you know, there's a lot of things on this arrow that you need to know about. This is a 500 spine. This is not, the little number you see here is grains per inch, which it might be backwards for you. It looks backwards to me, but grains per inch. So that's each inch of this shaft weighs 8 inches, or not 8 inches, but 8 grains per inch. So if you take that, let's say if it's 30 inches at 8 grains, that's 240 grains. That's without a knock, without an insert, without tip weight. So when you start adding all your weight to it, which will be your feathers, knock, all those weigh different things. Even my tip weight, there is 125 grain tip weight. My insert is 50 grains, so you got to add all that to get your total arrow weight. But the 500 does not stand for 500 grains. It's just the deflection of the arrow. When they spine test it, they're going to spine test it at 26 inches and hang a 2 pound weight. And whatever it goes down to, wherever that arrow hangs down, if it hangs down 0.5, it'd be a 500 spine, 0.4, 400, 0.3, 300 spine, you know. And usually in arrow shafts, higher the number, the more flimsier it is. Lower the number, the more stiffer it is. But you can get Carbon Express, which in their heritage goes the opposite way. And a 150, and that's a 500 spine. And I'm thinking before, like a 150, when I first started, you know, I also used a 350 spine and all that, shooting a compound. I said, ain't that a bit stiff? They said, no, they're just like teetotally backwards. So keep that in mind. If you go with the Carbon Express Heritage, I mean, it's a good looking shaft. It's a heavy shaft, but you know, even for a 500, it's heavier than this 500 overall. With the if I left them 32 inches with 125, that thing will weigh at full length arrows at 32 inches. It'll weigh 470, 480 grains just by itself. That's without adding. That's just with the feathers, the knock they got on it. That's what it'll finish out. But when you choose your arrow, it don't matter what it is, make sure you get the correct spine so you can start, you know, be able to start shooting and all that, and at least it not be flying real funky. You're going to have some funky arrow flight because if you're a beginner, you're not used to shooting with your fingers, so it's going to take a little bit to be able to get your release straightened out to where it's, you know, consistent and all that. But you know, for me, I can give you a kind of an idea. I'm a 27-inch draw length when it comes to a traditional bow. I was a 29 when I came from compound, so I lost 2 whole inches. Some people lose an inch, half an inch. I lost 2 whole inches to where I draw an anchor to. That has a lot to do with face structure, your fingers, how long your fingers are, so on and so forth. I end up losing 2 inches on my draw length, so I'm now to a 27. So if I shoot anything from a 43-pound bow, puts me in between spines. I could probably shoot a 600 spine with no problem, which will be a little bit weaker than a 500. For a 43 to 42-pound bow, I have to stick 50 grain insert and a 150 grain head to get that to fly off a 42 to 43-pound bow, to fly where it will fly straight and perfect. I guess from like 43 pounds up to about right now about 51.5 to 52, I can shoot the same spine. I can shoot a 500 spine. I have to play with the tip weight to get it to fly, but I can shoot a 500 spine with that much draw weight difference. If I go, say, 60 pounds, 55 and up, I'll probably shoot a 400. So that would kind of give you a rough idea at a 27-inch draw length. It's going to vary. Shorter your draw length, the weaker the spine you're probably going to need to get that figured out. But the best thing I could tell you to do is make you a test kit. If you know you're not going to shoot much more over, say, if you're going to shoot between 40 and 50 pounds, I would make a test kit with a 600, a 500, and a 400. That would be the only 3 arrows that you will need between that draw weight. It just depends on your draw length. If you're over 28 inches, you're going to be looking at probably a 400 up to a 500, 400, and a 340, 350 spine. It just depends on the bow. And I know a guy that got started. He's about a 29-inch draw length. So if he shoots standard bow, if he shoots my long bow at 55 at 28, he's going to gain 2.5 more pounds of draw weight. So you're looking at about 57.5, 58 pounds, depending on if he goes, you know, if he's 29.5, 29, depending on where he draws at. So he'll be right at that heavier weight. So he probably shooting with this long bow, he'd probably shoot a 400 spine easily, and probably in between spines with that. So I would make a test kit that will help you out tremendously in finding the correct spine when you get to really tuning, and that'll be at a later date. If you're a beginner, most people that's been in it a while probably already got test kits, got enough arrows laying around, they can figure it out at different lengths, and I've got plenty of them. So I end up collecting a bunch of arrows from all different bows, so I use them to test and see about what I need, and it gets me pretty much right in the ballpark. But if you do get a test kit as a beginner, you know, I would start out with a 600, 500, 400. That'll cover most of your those spines will cover most of your draw weight ranges that you're going to be able to shoot. So unless you go below 40, depending on your draw length, you might be shooting a 700 or 800 spine. You might even just shoot a 600 spine. It just all depends on your draw length. So we'll get into all that. As far as how to measure your draw length, which you'll probably need to do that right after. And I'll probably make that right in between before I go into how to get your form established as a beginner. So just remember, arrow spine is your most important, no matter what you choose or what fletching type you use, whether it's a 4-inch, 5-inch parabolic or whatnot. Spine is going to be your most important factor in choosing an arrow, so you can get to going. Once you get everything figured out, get your form settled, and you'll be able to be on your way shooting a lot better without having a whole lot of problems. So hope this video helps, and I hope y'all have a great day, and God bless.